in the beginning there was nothing, and from nothing, when the absolute alone existed, that absolute first interacted with the three gunas. The first guna is the Sattva guna. Sattva guna is represented by white. So you see the white circle around the absolute. And then we have the red circle, which is the Rajoguna. So the Rajoguna is represented by a red circle, which is around the absolute. Then we have the Tamoguna. Tamoguna is represented by the black circle. So these three gunas were first, the absolute expressed itself through these three gunas. So the three gunas were the first level of expression. Now once these three gunas were kind of contemplated upon, if you were to say that, yes, then what happened? The absolute interacted with the Sattva guna. So when the absolute manifested through the Sattva guna, the first element was formed, and that is called the Akasha. Now this is not the gross Akasha that we talk about, this is the subtle Akasha, the subtle form of Akasha element.
So this entire process is a precursor to the Akasha Dvayu Vayu Agni.
Exactly. So in the video we saw Akasha Dvayu Vayu Agni Agni Rapaha. This is a precursor to that.
Yes.
So from the absolute we have the subtle Akasha. Now from the subtle Akasha, when the absolute interacts with the Sattva and the Rajas, then you get a subtle Vayu. So the subtle Vayu. Then when it interacts with Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, then you get subtle Agni. Then again when you add a little more Tamas to it, then you get Apaha, subtle Apaha. So then when you add a little more of Tamas to that, then you get subtle Prithvi. So these are the subtle elements. Now these 5 subtle elements are formed when the absolute interacts with these gunas. Now each of the subtle elements themselves start interacting with the 3 gunas.
Exactly.
So this is a whole game is of permutations and combinations. And so the subtle elements now start interacting with the 3 gunas. Now when the subtle Akasha interacts with the Sattva guna, what we get is Shabda, hearing. The faculty of hearing. The faculty of hearing is created when subtle Akasha interacts with Sattva guna. Then we have the subtle Vayu. When it interacts with Sattva, you get the second Jnanendriya, which is Sparsha, touch. Then subtle Agni, when it interacts with Sattva, you get the third Sabda, Sparsha, Rupa. Then when we have subtle Apaha, that is the water, when it interacts with Sattva, you get Rasa, taste. And then subtle Prithvi, when it interacts with Sattva, you get Gandha, that is smell. Now these Jnanendriyas are the faculty of hearing, faculty of touch, sight, taste, smell, along with the organs. So for example, Shabda symbolizes the ear, then Sparsha is the skin, the touch. Then Rupa is the eyes, the sight. Then Rasa is the taste, represented by the tongue. And then Gandha is the smell, represented by the nose. Now when the same subtle elements interact with the Rajasic guna, then you get the Karmendriyas. So when you can see 5 dots which come out of the red line. So when the subtle Akasha interacts with the red line, which is represented by Rajoguna, then you get a Karmendriya. The first is Vak, speech. So the subtle Akasha gives speech. These are the Karmendriyas. Then the subtle Vayu, when interacts with Rajasic, it gives the hands, gives rise to hand. Then Agni gives rise to the feet. And then we have Apaha and Prithvi. When they interact, they give rise to the excretory system.